digital music players are still a niche product. Of course, there is plenty of competition between Sony, Cowan, Fio, Ibasso, and hifi. And then there's the smaller Chinese brands some audiophiles swear by, brands like the overpriced Lotu and Kayan players. I recently purchased the Shanling M6. It is Shanling's top-of-the-line digital audio player. It costs $500, runs Android, and probably should be considered alongside Fio, Ibasso, and Cowan. I have many DAPs, too many. I've noticed that manufacturers aren't really offering anything substantial to differentiate from each other. Some players have proprietary software, some use Android, some players don't offer balance while others offer balance but only at a very expensive price. Then there's the yearly upgrade cycle. Last year's hifi R6 is going to be replaced by the R6 Pro, and the R5 will have an R5 Pro, and Fio will churn out more players like their sausages. The newest Fio, by the way, is the M15, a $1,300 DAP that is stupidly expensive. I've been fairly impressed with Shanling. I like their UP4 Bluetooth amplifier, I like their M2X player, and when I saw that the M6 was available, I decided to give it a try. I've done the DAP of the year nonsense. I've fallen into the trap of buying things because of hype, and I'm well over it. I'm done with Fio's Player of the Month, and although I like the sound of Sony players, the cost for performance of Sony players is simply unjustified. On the other hand, I do enjoy listening to unique DAPs. I have several Cowans, a Calyx M, the hifi R6, 2 Sonys. I appreciate the quirks and sound differences amongst all of these players. That's what makes them fun to listen to. And I think the Shanling M6 falls in line with these players. Whereas a lot of pricey DAPs provide a single-ended 3.5mm and maybe, if you're lucky, a balanced output, Shanling's M6 provides 2 balanced outputs and a single-ended. You can take a look at Shanling's website for all the specs, but I'll say this much, Shanling packed a lot into their newest player. The M6 has 2.4G and 5G Wi-Fi, something that few players implement. The M6 has a fairly long battery life. Shanling says 12 hours, but in my experience, this is closer to 10 hours depending on the music and volume. The M6 has bi-directional Bluetooth, USB DAC mode, Android OS without the Google Play Store, 2 AKM DACs, and the list goes on, and frankly is pretty expansive. The sound quality out of the M6 is neutral with just a tiny roll-off in the treble. Using neutral IEMs or headphones, I can't notice any emphasis in the bass or mids, although I do sometimes hear a few decibels smoothing in the treble. Compared to the Fio M11, I think that the Shanling M6 has a slightly smoother sound overall. Compared to the Cowan Plenu D2, P1, and P2, the Shanling has slightly more detail and separation of instruments. Speaking of comparisons, I have to disclose that a week after I got the Shanling M6, I sold my Fio M11. I could not justify keeping both, and I have been fed up with Fio's marketing and gimmicks. Although the M11 is a decent DAP, there were issues. For example, the M11 made a clicking noise whenever changing tracks. This was caused either because of the equalizer or because the player was switching from one type of resolution to another. Moreover, even though the M11 has 2 SD card slots, the slots have different transfer rates. Slot 1 is slower than slot 2, and slot 1 does not work with the 512GB card from Lexar. In short, these issues became more evident the more I compared the Shanling to the Fio. Anyway, back to the M6. I paired it with various headphones and IEMs. I tried every IEM I have, and all were easily driven. None displayed hiss or noise. I also used my Sennheiser HD660S, NAD HP50, and Sendy Ava. All of these headphones were easily driven through both the 3.5mm or 4.4mm jacks. There are a couple of things I should point out, however. First, the version of Android on this player does not include the Play Store. However, Shanling includes an application to sideload virtually any application that is otherwise available through the Google Play Store. The installation is dead simple, in fact no more complicated than it is on any Android device. This means you can install Tidal, Spotify, Cubase, and probably any other third-party music application. The M6 currently uses Android's OS 7.1. Whether Shanling intends to upgrade down the line is beyond me. However, this version of Android seems stable on the device, and there is nothing I feel the player is missing because of the older OS. Second, the build quality is on par with any other $500 DAP. As I said, I have lots of experience with DAPs, and the M6 looks and feels like a premium product. The large IPS screen is HD. It looks bright and colorful. The user interface is fast and responsive. Stock out of the box, the M6 is zippy with no lag or stuttering. I'm sure performance will vary with applications. There is no bloatware pre-installed. Once the device boots, you have the Shanling Music app and a few other applications. If you're used to the most advanced Android phone, then you'll likely find things to gripe about. The M6 is a music player first and foremost. It is not intended for you to play your mobile games or write lengthy emails. While you might be able to achieve either of these tasks, just use your smartphone if you really must game or compose emails. Third, the balanced output provides 350 milliwatts at 32 ohms and 160 milliwatts comes from the unbalanced output. This is not the most powerful player on the market. It lives somewhere in the middle. In comparison, both the FiiO M11 and M15 provide substantially more power. At first thought, this might appear to be a deal breaker, and perhaps it is for some. But your use scenario will determine this. Anyone using standard 32 ohm headphones will not have a problem with any of these players, and anyone who has hard-to-drive headphones like the Modhouse Argons or Beyerdynamic T1 may find that the FiiO devices aren't that fantastic either. Those who use IEMs or headphones from Sennheiser, Monolith, Audeze, or frankly any headphone up to 150 ohms will find that the Shanling M6 has plenty of power. Finally, I think it's pretty obvious that Shanling is competing with FiiO. The price point and components are similar. FiiO has its own devoted fans. FiiO also has its own software gimmicks like All to DSD. I assure you, this function is not as useful as FiiO makes it appear. Upscaling an MP3 file to DSD is not going to result in better sound quality. And a high-resolution audio file upconverted to DSD is going to sound the same as it would without the conversion. There are other reasons to consider FiiO, but not many, mind you. If you want all the power you can possibly get, then the FiiO M11 will likely provide that. But if you're not a fan of the FiiO sound signature, build, or hype, then the Shanling M6 is an excellent alternative. The Shanling is a big, sturdy player. It provides playback of high-resolution files, has a long battery life, a great screen, responsive user interface, and a flawless build quality. The only thing that is missing is MQA support. Had Shanling included MQA support, the M6 would clearly stand out from other players in this price bracket. But if you're like me and don't buy into the MQA dream, the Shanling M6 does everything any $500 player should. In the future, we'll go through the Shanling M6 features, its user interface, and its sound.